open something else. So Brigitte Amorouso is the Energy and Climate Change Lead at Make UK, with a background in sciences and having worked mainly in regional and global roles in a variety of industry sectors, from agrochemicals to pharmaceuticals and chemicals. So she has finally joined the manufacturers organisation to lead the net zero agenda with passion. So a really broad background, but all very related to the sectors that Crest also works in. So welcome to you, Brigitte. Kat's brought up your presentation. I'll hand over to you now. Hi, Brigitte, we can't hear you. Are you okay to start?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry. Thank you for introducing me, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this workshop. So I'll, if you can go to the next slide. So Make UK, for those who don't know, it is the manufacturers organisation. It's the representative voice of UK manufacturing. We previously known as the EEF, the Engineers and Employees Federation. We've just celebrated our 125th anniversary, and collectively we represent 1.2 million workers from companies of all sizes, about 20,000 companies in our membership. And mostly, well, from all sizes, startups and multinational, but mostly SMEs, the top end of SMEs in terms of size, and across all sectors of manufacturing, from aerospace to automotive, textiles, pharmaceuticals, metals, etc. And we gather our intelligence from 9 official regional offices, including in the West, in the Midlands, of course. So we do have a really representative and powerful voice to convey the concerns and of our manufacturers at all government levels. We're often at the Cabinet Office as well. We have our entries there. So yes, it's quite, so we're very active on the policy front as well. But next slide, please. So we've had 4 focus themes that we prioritize our activities in this year. And these are some of the big challenges for manufacturers, and including but not limited to our new relationship with the EU, and adapting to a new global trading environment, continuing to lead the green revolution and supporting manufacturers make it green and transition to net zero, of course, and ensuring they are equipped with the employees and skills they need. So very relevant to this workshop, as well as the finance to make green investments. We also, another theme is all on digital technologies to the UK, who wants to be a world leader in innovation and clean growth. And also making sure our education and training system can meet our ambitions. I did forget to say that we do have 2 apprenticeship centres in the country, and that we're one of the biggest apprenticeship schools, if you want, or centres in the country as well. So next slide. So basically, what is the situation today? So we haven't got a study right now, but we plan to publish a report in the autumn on skills. And in Make UK, we've only started to look at net zero in the last year, really. So we have set up a working group specifically for that, and we've been dealing with this. So we've really started from scratch. And so today, what is the situation? Well, I guess many of you know, because of COVID last year, we couldn't really have any conversation on net zero at all, or even sustainability. And so COVID-19 just dominated the conversation. And although more than 90% of our manufacturers were and are aware of net zero, which is a good thing, 30% and 30% were willing to take action, which at the beginning of last year was pretty good. There were main barriers, and it's no secret to anyone, that's finance, and closely followed by the lack of education. So next slide. But we've seen that the priority is changing. There is definitely a shift in mindset amongst our membership. It's very tangible. COVID has forced them to rethink their business. So they realize that they have to build back more resilient and more sustainable. So they have and are adapting. They've been really agile. It's been quite eye-opening what many businesses have been able to do. And more as well, we can see, and we're hearing that more and more of them are being asked by their customers about their sustainability credentials. So there is a supply chain pressure building up, and they're starting to realize that they do need to take action if they want to stay competitive. So the good news is that in a recent poll, about 3/4 of our manufacturers indicated that net zero is their long-term top priority. So we can really start, moving forward on this. But really, we realize that many are still not sure exactly what the benefits for their business is, and if they would be able to finance this either. So they still have yet to understand the benefits, and they don't know where to start and how to start. So I think that really, we've realized that we actually have to go back to the basics and start from zero, and we need to demystify net zero. And I noted the slide of one of the previous speakers had demystifying net zero. So we have launched a series of net zero workshop. That was one of our first steps, really starting with the basics, which would be, why net zero, why is it important, why do you have to pay attention, what are the what are the benefits, what happens if you don't do it, what is mandatory, what is not mandatory, and then so on, learning as you go. One very important one, so we've just done the how to obtain funding one, and it was quite striking that 70% of the participants didn't know really where to obtain funding and how to do it. So that was also eye-opening, and we also learned about certain fiscal and incentives and tax reliefs that are really not well known at all. So there's a lot to do in that area. So for those who are interested, we're continuing. These workshops are actually not just open to our members, they're open to all. So if you wish to join, there are the links here on the slides for the next half of the series. So next slide, please. So first steps first, and I missed the beginning of the workshop, but I believe that there was a discussion on energy efficiency and materials efficiency. And as we know, the priority task of manufacturers is to actually make their industrial processes more efficient and clean. And the first thing that we also realize is that it's not just all these WYSI technologies and so on. It's about literally eliminating waste, and it's waste of electricity, heat, water, so things like leaking pumps and of air, deficient or inefficient compressors. As we know, compressors use up about 10% of global energy, so it's huge if you can actually have an efficient compressor. So, and what you measure, you can control. So the first thing really is to measure the consumption, and we realized we had a survey as well on more specifically on energy, and although 95 or 98% of manufacturers had meters, actually very few have sub-meters, so that's quite interesting. So you know, they can't really pinpoint where the waste is happening. And it's not expensive to install these sub-meters either, but it's just a lack of awareness about this. So and I completely agree that materials efficiency is also very important, and I really don't want you to think that I'm not thinking of that, and I think our manufacturers are also thinking of that at the same time. But I think starting with things, easy things to do, is the first thing really. So which skills for the future? So we do need, nevertheless, all the skills that have been listed actually in your very good the very good reports that our previous speakers have provided, notably. So yes, it's also a question actually often of just taking a step back and looking at the process in the factory from scratch, and really looking at, you know, what's going wrong, what's not efficient, where you could improve. So we need more of well, lots of people, but data analysts to analyze big data so that you can understand consumption trends, chemists who know more about material streams and processing so that they can turn waste into useful raw materials, engineers who understand the whole system and how to improve machines. So we've had a fantastic talks previously as well. And then of course in the business, people who can actually introduce new business models, servitization. Yes, so it has to, and also how to get funding and so on. Sorry, next slide. So the issues we have, and you'll recognize this from the previous presentation as well, is that, well, we've seen many manufacturers actually wanting to hire, even during the COVID crisis last year, to hire new staff, and particularly younger people, because of their ability to grasp these new technologies and IT skills. But there, of course, there is the skill gap, and that has, of course, been exacerbated with the apprentices and students missing their year last year due to COVID. And there's also a poor perception of the manufacturing sector as being old style and dirty. So we're working on changing that, but it is, yeah, it takes time. And the proportion of female staff as well in manufacturing is very low. So there's a lot more to be done in school to attract more apprentices. And the policy landscape and learning landscape must be simplified as well, with a common curriculum, probably common to all to start with, and then with various specializations. But certainly it would help if there was something unified across the country. So what, and I'll just finish really with what we're doing in Make UK. So we have implemented or set up this net zero framework, and we've issued a set of very simple guiding principles around net zero and sustainability, which are about really measuring, first of all, and aligning to the COP26, the Paris 2015 goals. Planning, of course, collaborating with industry. So very simple principles just to focus our members' minds. Then we have also produced some educational resources. So apart from the workshops I mentioned, we have a toolkit that members can use where they can footprint their carbon, do site surveys, plan, etc., and report, get help with reporting. And also very important as well, there's a much demand for sharing best practices. So business to business. So we're organizing a little scheme for innovative and green champions that we know we have, to share their best practice and inspire others who are actually looking to start or who want to accelerate their path towards net zero. And finally, so unfortunately, we don't have our roadmap just yet, but I'm very pleased to say that we have just launched our project and that it should be ready in time for COP26. And regarding COP26, we're also inviting our members. We have submitted several expressions of interest to organize events at the COP26, which would showcase our manufacturers and the very good things that they already do. So to inspire others. And we are also encouraging our members to sign up to the SME Climate Hub, which is, and the Race to Zero, which are the promotional campaigns for the COP26.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask any extra information that you have, please pop in the chat for everybody.